If you're in New York and you're planning to seed in the spring, but you're also going to put down crabgrass preventer, I've got some bad news. Those two goals usually conflict with each other. The same product that stops crabgrass from sprouting can also stop or severely weaken your new grass seedlings. So in this video, I'm breaking down the #1 overseeding mistake that I see in New York, how pre-emergents actually work, how long strong crabgrass preventer can hold, and the best windows to overseed cool season grass so you get a thick lawn without wasting seed or money. In the northern climate zone states like New York, most lawns are cool season grasses like Kentucky blue, perennial rye, and fine fescues. These grasses do not love the summer heat, but they explode with growth in early fall when the soil is still warm and the air is much cooler. And that's the key. The best seeding window isn't spring, it's late summer into the early fall. Here's the problem with spring seeding in New York. Spring is also when crabgrass starts to germinate, and to prevent massive crabgrass outbreak, we need to put down a pre-emergent in the early spring when the soil temperatures are still cool. Now, pre-emergent doesn't kill crabgrass plants. It prevents crabgrass from successfully establishing in the first place. And here's the part that most people miss. Pre-emergent doesn't know the difference between crabgrass seed and grass seed. If you seed into a pre-emergent barrier, your results are going to be fairly mid. They'll be patchy, or you'll have delayed germination, or if you get germination that looks okay, the seedlings can die off because the plant can't root properly due to that barrier. Think of pre-emergent like a protective zone in the very top layer of the soil. When a seed germinates, it sends out a tiny shoot. Pre-emergent chemistry interferes with that early development, and the baby plant can't establish itself. That's exactly what we want for a crabgrass plant, but it's also exactly what we don't want for your brand new cool season turfgrass seedlings. So if your plan is to put down pre-emergent crabgrass preventer in the spring, but it also fix those thin spots with an overseed, then it's like stepping on the gas and the brake at the exact same time. Now let's talk about the real world timeline. A quality crabgrass preventer applied at the proper label rate and watered in correctly can often provide around 3 to 4 months of strong protection with minimal breakthrough. The exact duration will depend on the active ingredient, the rate, the weather, and soil conditions. So always follow the label, but 4 months is common for a solid program. So what happens? You apply the pre-emergent in the spring to cover crabgrass season, and that barrier is still doing its job well into the summer. Which means if you seed during that window, you're usually gonna be scratching your head and asking yourself why the seed didn't take, even though you watered it, raked it in, and did everything else right. And the truth is, the pre-emergent did exactly what it's designed to do. It stopped the new seedlings from establishing. For New York cool season lawns, the best overseeding results almost always come from late summer or early fall seeding. Why? The soil is still warm and you get that fast germination, but the air is cooler, so there's less stress, disease pressure, and moisture will hold for a longer period of time. The weed pressure also drops compared to the spring, and your grass has time to establish before winter will set in. A simple New York rule is to aim to seed when you still have 6 to 8 weeks before your typical first hard frost. In upstate New York and higher elevations, that window is a bit earlier than Long Island or warmer pockets of the state. You can also go a little bit later the further south you go. Here's a fast and practical plan. You start off by mowing a bit shorter than normal, around 2 to 2.5 inches, and clean up the clippings. Improve seed to soil contact and open up space that's lower than the normal soil height with a core aeration at the same time that you seed. And you're going to want to spread the seed at an overseeding rate, not the new lawn rate, which is usually about half of the new lawn rate. And keep the surface consistently moist until germination begins. Light watering more often. Then after germination, transition to deeper, less frequent watering so that the roots can start to drive down. Resume mowing when the grass hits about 3 inches, the new grass. And don't forget the 1/3 rule here, because your existing grass is likely going to be closer to 6 inches by the time you get back to mowing. Now, there is another option, and it can work in New York. In fact, I believe it to be the second best time to seed. It's called dormant seeding. This means that you put down the seed in the late fall when the soil temps are cold enough that the seed won't germinate right away. It sits there ready and waiting for spring, and then as soon as the ground thaws and the conditions are right, it can start growing. Dormant seeding can be a great move when you miss that late summer to early fall window and you want to get the seed on the ground early and you don't plan on waiting till next fall, so you're okay with being patient for the next spring. But here's the big warning. If that seed is going to germinate in the spring, then traditional spring pre-emergent barriers could still interfere with the effect, but it's less likely since germination will begin up to about 3 weeks earlier than if you tried to seed in the spring. So with dormant seeding, you can use a strategy like delaying a strong pre-emergent until the new grass establishes, or you can use a seed-safe approach in the spring that doesn't shut down your grass seedlings the same way that the long-lasting barriers do. This is not needed as much as it is suggested, but maybe just wait a little longer for the pre-emergent application and then manage any potential crabgrass breakthrough with a post-emergent. If you absolutely have to seed in the spring in New York, here's the honest truth. You usually have to choose between the best crabgrass prevention or the best seeding success, because the strongest, longest holding crabgrass preventers are designed to stop the seedlings, period. Spring seeding can still be done, but expect more weed pressure, more work, and usually weaker results than you'll see in the fall. That's why the pros and the experienced DIYers treat spring as weed prevention and lawn maintenance season, and then treat late summer and early fall as seeding and renovation season. So if you're in New York with cool season grass and you want the best overseeding results, skip that spring seeding if you're running a serious crabgrass pre-emergent program. Plan your big overseed for late summer or early fall, or consider dormant seeding with a smart spring weed control plan. Comment where you're at in New York, Long Island, Hudson Valley, Capital Region, Syracuse, or the North Country, because your ideal seeding window changes a lot by region, and if you want, I'll tell you the best target weeks for your area.